The town of Pinebrook was the kind of place where time moved like honey in winter, slow, familiar, and sweet only to those who had always known it. Nestled between sleepy hills and whispering woods, it was a town of handshakes, Sunday potlucks, and a school bell that had rung at exactly 7:45 a.m. for over half a century. It was also the kind of town where everyone remembered the girl who bled on the gym floor. Her name was Asha Monroe. Back then, she was 11 years old, soft-spoken and sharp-eyed, the only black girl in her 5th grade class at Pinebrook Elementary. Her mother, Carla, had moved them there from Atlanta in search of quiet and safety, believing small towns held less danger. But danger isn't always loud. Sometimes it whispers behind locker doors and travels in notes passed during math. On a cool March morning in 2003, Asha got her first nosebleed. It happened during PE coach Denon blew the whistle, and the girls lined up to run relays. Asha was halfway through her second lap when she felt the warm rush trickling over her lip. She froze. Laughter. Mrs. Evers, her 5th grade homeroom teacher, pulled her aside. "Go wash up and call your mom. We don't want accidents." There was something in her voice that made Asha flinch. Her classmates whispered. Some giggled. Others looked away. But Asha remembered it all. The tiled hallway, the sharp sting of embarrassment, the nurse's office where she sat with tissues stuffed in her nose, the call home, and her mother's tense silence as they drove away. She didn't go back the next day, or the day after that. Carla pulled her out by the end of the week. No one asked why. 20 years passed. Asha Monroe grew up, left Pinebrook, and never looked back. She became a journalist, carving a career out of asking the questions no one wanted to answer. She lived in Detroit now, in a small but sunlit apartment lined with books, old records, and stories still waiting to be written. Then, one rainy afternoon, a box arrived. It came from her mother's old attic, sent by a cousin cleaning out the house after Carla's passing. Inside were photo albums, a faded Cabbage Patch doll, and a battered copy of the 2003 Pinebrook Elementary Yearbook. Asha almost tossed it aside, but something made her pause. Flipping through the pages, she found the faces she had tried so hard to forget. Timmy Carver with his buck teeth, Emily Hartwell with her pale curls, and there, bottom, right on page 43, her own picture. Wide-eyed, unsure. Then on the inside back cover, in fading blue ink, she saw it. "I'm sorry. I should have done more. M. Evers." The world tilted. Mrs. Evers, the teacher who sent her home, the one who told her to call her mother, the one whose voice had sounded like shame hidden behind courtesy. Why would she write this? Asha stared at the inscription. The penmanship was unmistakable, slanted, neat, with a finality that didn't match the breezy goodbyes found in most yearbooks. Why now? Why this? The questions began to churn. She called the school the next morning. Pinebrook Elementary still stood, though Mrs. Evers had retired years ago. The receptionist sounded startled when Asha asked. "She lives up on Maple Ridge," the woman finally offered. "Keeps to herself." Asha booked a flight. The return to Pinebrook felt surreal. The same diner sign flickered near Main Street. The same cracked sidewalk led up to the school gates. Only the paint seemed fresher, as if time had tried to cover up memory. She found Mrs. Evers' house by dusk. A small cottage, garden overgrown, porch light flickering. Asha's heart pounded. She knocked. Footsteps. Then the door opened. A face, older but familiar, wrinkled around the eyes. "Sad. Asha Monroe," the woman said. Asha blinked. "I wondered when you'd come." Inside, the house smelled of lavender and dust. Books lined every wall. Asha sat on the edge of a floral sofa while Mrs. Evers made tea. The silence stretched. "Why did you write it?" Asha asked finally, her voice low. Mrs. Evers set the cup down with trembling hands. "Because it haunts me," she whispered. She told Asha about that day, how she had seen the blood, the embarrassment in the girl's eyes, the way the other children stared, and how she had made the choice to send her home. It wasn't the blood, she admitted. It was fear of the stares, of the questions, of making it worse. "You were the adult," Asha said quietly. "I was a child." Tears welled in Mrs. Evers' eyes. "I know." The conversation stretched into the night. Stories spilled. Regrets poured like rain. And by the end, Asha sat in silence, heart heavy. She left the house just before midnight. But as she walked down the steps, Mrs. Evers called after her. "There's something else," she said. "Something I never told anyone. It's about that day, and what I found in the staff room drawer after you left." Asha turned. Mrs. Evers' face was pale. Her voice trembled. "I think you were being targeted." Asha froze. "What do you mean?" "There was a letter, a note with your name on it, threatening. I reported it, but it disappeared. They told me not to say anything. That would cause trouble, but I kept a copy. I still have it." Silence. Then Mrs. Evers disappeared into the house, leaving Asha standing on the porch, the wind howling through the pines. What had really happened that day? And who had tried to bury it? Asha sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her phone screen, the cursor blinking over a blank note. She hadn't written a word since last night. Not after what Mrs. Evers said. Not after that name crept out of the shadows of her memory. A name that meant her past wasn't as forgotten as she tried to make it. Asha had come here seeking closure. But closure had a price, and it was starting to feel like she had only paid the down payment. She met Mrs. Evers again that afternoon. This time in a public park, a neutral space, safe and open. Mrs. Evers wore a wool coat despite the warm breeze, her movements slow, almost deliberate. She carried a file folder tucked beneath her arm, edges frayed with age. They sat at a picnic table beneath an oak tree that had watched generations come and go. Mrs. Evers placed the folder on the table. "I never stopped thinking about it," she said. "Not once." Inside the folder was a single sheet of paper. Photocopied, blurry, but legible. Asha read the words. Then again, her throat tightened. "She doesn't belong here. Send her back, before someone does it for you. No name, no signature, just block letters typed." This was in the staff room drawer. Asha asked. Mrs. Evers nodded. "The week of the nosebleed. I showed it to the principal. He told me it was probably a prank. Said we couldn't risk drama." Asha felt something cold bloom in her chest. She thought of her mother, of the way she yanked her from that school without a word to anyone. Now it all made sense. Mrs. Evers looked down. "They told me to destroy it. I didn't. I couldn't." The silence that followed was thick with memory. Back at the motel, Asha stared at the ceiling, the letter on the nightstand. She could walk away. Again, but something inside her was stirring. A need not just for answers, but for reckoning. She started making calls. Former teachers. A janitor who now lived in Tallahassee. A guidance counselor named Marion who had left Pinebrook in 2004 under vague circumstances. One by one, pieces began to emerge. An anonymous complaint had been filed that spring about racially motivated harassment, about how the school handled it. The file had vanished. The principal had resigned a year later. No reason given. Asha's journalism instincts ignited. This wasn't a story about a girl with a nosebleed. It was about silence, complicity, the cost of pretending everything is fine. She reached out to Principal Patel, the current head of Pinebrook Elementary. The office declined a meeting, so Asha went anyway. The school looked the same, but smaller now. The paint was fresh. The flags were new, but the bones were old. In the lobby, she saw a plaque commemorating the school's founding. A list of former principals. Her eyes stopped at one, D.K. Dalton, 1997 to 2004. She asked to speak to Mrs. Patel. She waited and waited. Finally, the door opened. Asha was led into an office, sterile and bright. Mrs. Patel, a woman in her early 40s, offered a tight smile. "Ms. Monroe, what can I help you with?" Asha placed the letter on the desk. "I want to know why no one protected me." Mrs. Patel read the letter. Her face shifted. "Where did you get this? Does it matter?" Mrs. Patel leaned back. "This happened before my time. But if records were mishandled, that's serious." Asha held her gaze. "I'm not looking to burn this place down, but I'm not leaving quietly either." Later that night, back at the motel, Asha got a message. It was from someone named M. Harris, former janitor, now retired. "I remember you. I remember that letter. I was the one who found it. Call me." Asha stared at the message. Her fingers hovered over the dial pad. Outside, the streetlight flickered. She pressed call. The line clicked. "You're not the only one they sent away." Then the line went dead. Asha couldn't sleep. The janitor's words rang in her ears. "You're not the only one they sent away." She paced the length of the motel room, dawn creeping under the blinds like a secret. Her mind ran laps around itself, chasing shadows, chasing names, chasing the echo of every time someone told her to stop asking questions. But it was too late for silence now. That morning, she drove out to meet Marcus Harris, the retired janitor. His house sat at the edge of town, near a dry riverbed. The screen door creaked as he opened it, eyes tired but alert. "Come on in," he said. They sat at a kitchen table worn soft by time. Coffee steamed in mismatched mugs. "It was spring of 2003, Marcus began. "I was cleaning the teacher's lounge, and I found it in a drawer nobody used. Your name was on it. Real ugly stuff. I showed it to Dalton, the principal. He told me it was handled. But then I saw them whispering. Meetings behind closed doors. Evers looked sick every time your name came up. And then you were gone. Do you know who wrote it?" Asha asked. Marcus shook his head. "No, but I know they protected someone. I think the letter came from inside the school. Not a student, an adult." Asha leaned back. The pieces were fitting together, jagged as they were. "Marion, the counselor, she said something happened after I left. A settlement." Marcus nodded slowly. "There was a hush-hush payout the following fall. Some story about a misconduct claim. I wasn't supposed to know, but I saw the paperwork in Dalton's office once before it vanished." That evening, Asha drove to the town hall. The clerk's office was nearly empty. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. She requested public records from 2003 and 2004. There it was. A non-disclosure agreement filed under school board documentation. No names, just an internal code. Settlement sealed. She made copies. The next day, she filed a request to interview Dalton. He declined, so she found his address. She drove out to the retirement complex on the north edge of Pinebrook. Neat hedges, identical doors. She knocked. The man who opened the door was older, thinner, but his eyes were the same. "Ms. Monroe," he said. Not a question, a statement. "I have questions." "I bet you do." He didn't invite her in, but he didn't close the door either. "You had a chance to protect me," Asha said. "You didn't." "What?" Dalton sighed. "Because the school board made it clear what mattered. Appearances. No headlines. No lawsuits. They told me to keep it quiet, that it would go away. You let a child be driven out because she made people uncomfortable." He looked away. "I still remember that day," he said. "You looked so small. I thought if we just moved on, things would stay stable." Asha's voice cracked. "I bled on your gym floor, and you wiped me away." Silence. She left without another word. The next week, Asha published the story. It wasn't just about her. It was about the system, the patterns, the silence that suffocates, and the bravery it takes to shout. Her article went viral. Former students reached out. Teachers, whistleblowers. The Pinebrook School Board issued a formal apology. Mrs. Evers called, voice trembling, to say thank you. A scholarship was created in Asha's name, but the healing wasn't linear. Some called her a troublemaker. Some told her to let the past die. But others, young black girls in rural schools, immigrants finding their voice, women once silenced in rooms full of power, they saw themselves in her story. Months later, Asha visited Pinebrook Elementary one last time. The hallways were repainted, the gym floor polished. A new counselor greeted her at the front office. She stood beneath the bell tower where it all began. She pulled a yearbook from her bag, opened to page 43, traced her finger over the old ink. "I'm sorry. I should have done more. M. Evers." She smiled, not because it was over, but because it had begun. She turned to leave. A little girl passing by looked up at her and asked, "Are you the lady who made the school better?" Asha crouched down, smiled. "I just told the truth. And sometimes that's enough to change everything."